So, Jared, did you hear the news?
What news?
Oh, no, this is huge. It's actually like the biggest news in small arms.
Yeah, so you gonna tell me? Or
No. You're gonna flip when I tell you this.
Yeah, this is the part where you tell me instead of wasting all my time.
Okay. TREX Arms is selling night vision. And it's on their site right now.
Well, that's queer. By the time you're watching this video, this is no longer news. I'll never claim to be the most up-to-date or trendy, and some would say that we are consistently late to the bandwagon. Probably because we were actually out in the darkness using our, night vision instead of worrying about the drama unfolding in the industry. You're probably already asking us, why are you even talking about TREX Arms? Well, I am glad you guys asked. Truthfully, it is just to get clicks and views and likes on this video and to ride the hype wave. I'm kidding. I actually do think that this is important to discuss. And the reason that I haven't said anything as I have watched the TREX Arms launch their night vision is I wanted to gather data. I wanted to see what their mission and plan with the night vision was. Look, Lucas has been kind of hinting about getting into night vision, and they've been showing content about night vision for years. And they've released arguably some of the best and most entertaining night vision content on YouTube for some time. It even inspired much of what we do and the content quality that we make here at Arkayne. And if you think that they haven't had an impact over the last few years in the night vision world, well, you're lying to yourself. Now that I had time to watch their night vision content and their live streams, as well as the content on their Instagram page, I wanted to dive into my position on the whole situation. But before I do, there are a few specific clarifications that I want to make. I own another company called TA Targets. TA Targets is officially partnered up with TREX Arms, and we have been for some time. We manufacture their redacted D-zone targets, and they retail our reduced C-zone targets and a few of our other target systems. We have been pleased with this partnership, and I've been glad to have been a part of it professionally between our companies. So I do have a personal connection to the team over at TREX that might introduce some bias in this video, but I'm going to do my best to look at the entire situation objectively. One last detail that really doesn't matter, but it adds to our own credentials as a night vision, thermal, and equipment supplier, and it frames the conversation. Arkayne became a 7-figure entity in its first 12 months. We have helped hundreds of customers get into night vision and other equipment in that first year alone. Hundreds of thousands of people have watched our content. Tens of thousands of people are on our site every single month. So we learned a lot since 2020 and 2021. I'll speak to our own experiences in this video as well. And the first question that I think I should ask is, why should we even be talking about it? And that's fair, and one that I think I should answer. On many points, I agree with Lucas's observation of the night vision community as a whole. We have a huge segment of that night vision world that sees nods just as a sexy and unique tool and an opportunity to flex their massive debt to the masses. They use it as a tool for self-gratification rather than a tool for maintaining our rights as free citizens. It's a fashion accessory for many, not a real, tangible tool that can be used for defense of liberty. It's just another expensive item used to poor shame people who currently can't swing nods. On those points, I agree with the TREX message. I saw firsthand the cancer inside the night vision industry as we began showcasing our units on TA Targets in 2020 and 2021. I recognized that there are many issues in the community. Take the Photonis tubes as one perfect example of this. The industry spits on Photonis tubes and makes anyone considering them out to be idiots. Every turn you will find companies running their mouths about how bad Photonis tubes supposedly are, yet we've handled hundreds of units with Photonis tubes, and every single time we're impressed. The clarity is there, the performance is there, yet the industry has you believing that if you run them, you're poor, or they're gonna get you killed, or they are Gen 2, which is false, or they suck. What is our issue? Heck, even Lucas on a recent live stream on Instagram said Photonis tubes were meh. I doubt he's had much time running 4G tubes, and if he had an objective opinion of them, I believe his opinion would certainly be different than what he was expressing. It's a hypocrisy that exists in our industry. Some of it is gatekeeping, and it's far more trendy to tell people your BNVDs or DTNVS is built with high-spec L3 tubes. People use this as a way to flex on others. They justify their overpriced purchase in 1,000 different ways while pushing bad information to further make themselves feel justified. This is called confirmation bias. There are legitimate issues within this community, and there are companies scamming people. There are companies feeding off poor financial decisions made by their customers. There are companies who will pressure customers into a specific unit. They will withhold information or lie to get more money from their customers. There are also companies who will knowingly screw their customers over. The night vision game is complicated and expensive. There are players with ill intent. That is for certain. So how does this compare to the T.REX launch of their night vision? T.REX took a fairly typical and conservative approach to offering their night vision. They partnered up with a third-party manufacturer to build the systems that they offer on their site. They order units, Nocturnality will build them and ship them to the T.REX facility, and they will process the orders. This means that T.REX has units on hand ready to ship according to the content that they have been posting. This is how we try to operate as much as possible, although sometimes demand exceeds our inventory and then we are building to order. It's also not unheard of in the industry, and it's not a problem if the company is ethical and a good communicator with their customers. T.REX Arms came out of the gate swinging, and I think that's the main area of contention within the night vision community. As I get into this, I want to be extremely clear. If you are at this point of the video, commit to watching the full video, and anything less, and my points will be taken out of context. At the end of the video, I'm gonna bring the whole thing full circle, but what I'm asking is, out of respect for this community and this situation, watch the full video. I watched the release video, and frankly, I was initially left with a pretty bad taste in my mouth. It wasn't that it made me mad, and frankly, I didn't care that T.REX Arms was also getting into the space, and if I'm being honest, I'm excited to see more and more companies that are getting into the night vision arena. What left me with a sour taste in my mouth was generally the method and the energy of which the release happened. Out of the blue, T.REX and Lucas are posting night vision content and positioning themselves as the owners of the space. At least that's what it felt like. They swoop in, claim to have an all-encompassing knowledge of the night vision industry, and they started shoving their position down everybody's throat. And I can actually understand very much why so many people started jumping on them as soon as they saw the content. All you have to do is look at the comments on their posts, and I can tell you that those comments led to some internal discussions that I'm sure about. And look, Lucas and his team are a bigger business than mine. He has, frankly, more experience than I do. His team is larger and probably more capable in some regard, but I'm sure that they weren't quite expecting some of the articulated pushback that they received. There's standards in the industry that have been created, and companies have been successfully proliferating nods to the masses for decades, long before T.REX dropped their current units on their website. I think that my biggest problem with the launch was just how it felt, and it felt more provocative, but without an end goal or an objective in mind. All of a sudden, we're calling the industry queer, and we're just throwing around that term loosely left and right as if that meant something. Then on Twitter, Lucas went on to say, "Man, I say the Q word, and my tweet is seen by 1 million people. Maybe this could be an engagement increasing strategy." And when I read that, it painted to me a picture of opportunistically making people angry. Look, we're edgy too. I took positions in the night vision industry since 2020 that had night vision companies contacting us and telling us to stop doing what we were doing. But I think there's a difference in causing friction with intent and objective to bring a solution, and then there's just making people mad because it's going to get views. And is that an ethical line that we're crossing? And I guess you guys are gonna have to decide if that is the case. I'm good dancing the line and stepping on toes, but I think that we should be disciplined in how we do it and why we do it. I think we should have an objective to be more unifying than dividing simply to divide. That doesn't mean that you don't ever divide or you arm communists willingly, but I do think that a basic level of respect should be had even when we are releasing controversial content and topics. And when I look at the issues of the night vision community, I largely agree with Lucas. Though weird macho flexing is gross, I think it's a poor decision to get into big debt for a unit. I think it's bad to look at night vision as an investment that's going to give you a return on that investment. But I think the biggest cancer is shoving people to units that companies think customers should own, rather than guiding customers to the units that are probably the best choice for them at the place that they're in now. I think blindly worshiping L3 and Elbit as the best hands down is gross. It severely limits customers' ability to decide what is best for themselves, and it's gonna lock customers into specific expensive units. Further, Lucas has often been flexing his gear and kit, including his panos, and now turning around and stating that it's just gear and the specs shouldn't necessarily be our primary focus. So my question is, which is it? If it isn't something to be flexed, why was it flexed? If the specs don't matter, why isn't T.REX showing people photonis tubes, saving them literally thousands of dollars and then telling them to focus that extra money saved on training? Now remember, these are my words and interpretations. I do think that this topic needs some grace, at least a little bit, and I'll explain at the end, but let's move onward. I argue that some of the night vision release was done less than tasteful, but they did it the way that they decided to do it, and quite frankly, they have every right to do that. The next point of contention, though, that I saw from many people as they were watching the content was about the first two night vision videos and the depth or lack thereof that they went into in those videos. T.REX often positions themselves as the leader of innovation and information, and their latest slogan is equipping serious citizens. So the criticism that I saw was the fact that the first two videos largely didn't provide any serious information for anyone that has a basic understanding of knots. I think personally that the first two videos were well done, but they were surfacey. There is a definite need for this kind of content, especially for folks who are just getting into night vision. But when you come out swinging and positioning yourself as a solution to an industry and the community in need, people expect you to be doing more than the other companies. And I can understand this sentiment. I've seen posts about these upcoming videos and in-depth night vision content from T.REX, and I'm 100% certain they will dive deep into the training aspect, as that has often been the flavor of content that T.REX likes to produce. I guess from my lens, I just sort of expected Isaac to come out and nerd out on the details as he has in past videos and really put some focus on the specs of night vision and their current offerings. But seeing their current position, it is clear why they didn't do that. They want to streamline the night vision ordering process, simplify it, and curate only a few offerings, at least for now from what they've said, for their customer base. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with doing that, but it won't be what many customers are going to be looking to do. This is a point that I want to hammer home. Our customers at Arkayne sometimes will save up for years to buy that set of binos. They simply will not tolerate us saying, trust us, it's good enough, just buy and your specs will be within this window. It just does not work with the level of money that we're talking about when someone is buying a unit like this. Another point of contention that I saw in the comment sections of their posts was the prices of the T.REX units, and Lucas clarified and let everybody know that the only offerings that they have on their units are the YH or YM Elbit tubes. Elbit offers a multitude of different flavored tubes, and I would say that the XLSH, SLH, and YH are probably the most common. The XLSH are being the dropouts, SLH being commercial grade, and the YH being their higher grade of intensifier tubes and more expensive. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with them offering YH tubes and saying, this is what we have, take it or leave it. My mindset is specs matter, but once we get over 2,000 FOM, there is a substantial diminishing return on your investment. You just don't get that much more for your money no matter what tube you get. FOM is just a calculation of specs, and the individual specs create the quality of the tube. So I'm all for it, but again, customers want to know for sure that they are getting their money's worth for the tube and the unit that they're purchasing. As of right now, the units shown on the T.REX Arm site have an advertised minimum of 1,600 FOM and over 25 SNR. And I can tell you though, even saying that, if you spent $8 grand on binos and landed with a set of tubes that are 1,600 FOM, regardless of the other specs, there's something inside of you that would feel off, and it kind of is what it is. T.REX also lists the current batches on their site, which I think that people should use to see what their current min and max are for the lots. The current batch of PVS-14s that they have on their website, for example, shows a minimum 2038 FOM, 28.3 SNR, 68 line pair per millimeter center resolution, and a 0.52 EBI, which are all healthy and respectable specs, but that comes at the price of $3,800 at the time of making this video. We have often built up and sold Photonis 1800 plus FOM units for around $1,000 less with similar specs to what I just talked about. And that's one thing everybody's pushing back on Lucas with. Lucas spent a lot of time explaining the Elbit tube offerings, and the problem is what everybody largely walked away with was XLSH bad, SLH eh, and YH, YM are the only good option. And the reality is we can get bulk XLSH tubes, sell them for a steal, and we get people into night vision fast. We also build up all other Elbit variants. It just depends on each customer. Most other night vision companies are also very similar. And with our company, the gamble of that XLSH tube is entirely removed because for $100, our customers get to spend up to 30 minutes with us specifically dialing in which tube they're going to be purchasing. I personally feel that it's sort of a disservice speaking down about companies that are offering all the flavors of tubes to their customers, but in their defense, their site clearly says that they don't offer hand-selected options and that if customers want that, they can just go right to Nocturnality or another supplier. To me, that's just leaving business and opportunity on the table, but that's a call that they get to make for themselves. The last point that I wanted to make is the conversation around debt to purchase night vision and thermal, and I actually do agree largely with Lucas. Debt to buy units is probably a really bad idea in almost every single case. So the real question is, why do we have something like a firm on our site if we think that this kind of debt is typically bad? But I have a better question for you. If a company's gonna grandstand about not enabling consumer debt, they should probably remove the option to use credit cards on their website. Credit card debt is rampant in our nation, and enabling the processing of credit cards can be argued as enabling consumer debt, just like plugging in a firm onto our website could potentially do the same thing. So why do I do it? Frankly, customers who buy stuff that they can't afford are more prone to stealing from companies than customers that are in a more solid financial situation and they're more squared away with their finances. Offering a firm is one way that we can securely process these riskier transactions without the risk of money being stolen from us from chargebacks. Make no mistake that at some point, T.REX will lose a substantial amount of money due to chargebacks on units, or they'll have some disappear in transit, or customers are going to claim that they never arrived on their doorstep. The list of fraud that we've experienced is endless. They probably have good systems in place, but it's a reality that all night vision companies are going to face. And you can only lose $10,000 so many times before you realize that stuff has to change. And I have horrible stories from the beginning of 2021 where we had units just disappear in transit. We just didn't have good systems in place at the time. Nothing makes you motivated to build systems like losing 3 high-spec PVS-14s and losing all the money at the snap of a finger. And now we have systems in place to combat most of these situations. But if you steal enough money from us, I might even show up at your door. I'm kidding, probably. Another thing we realized is that we have customers who have amazing financial situations, but because they use no debt or little debt, they just have strict limits on their debit cards and their bank will not let them spend over a certain amount on that debit card. And a firm offers them payments with no interest, so they choose that to balance their cash flow and finances when all other options aren't even possible to them. And in all of these situations, we gain a little bit more security and the customer gains even more flexibility. And we still put the message out on camera and behind the scenes that the ultimate flex around the night vision world is just owning your stuff outright and having a good financial situation. You can do both and not be a hypocrite. Looking at this entire situation objectively, I have some collective thoughts on where we are at as a community and how T.REX entering this space affects it positively and negatively. I see hypocrisy from many of the positions, yet at the same time, I understand why they might be making the moves that they are. They want to streamline the process for customers and are openly against getting into the weeds with the units and the specs. Personally, I feel like they're missing out on opportunities to educate their customers with this conversation, and I feel like they should have had time in the space proving their process prior to these statements, but to each their own. I personally didn't like the method of release or much of the language or how everything was being portrayed during the drop. I don't care about using queer or gay to describe something. That's not it. It's the idea that we are being edgy and divisive simply to be divisive. But it did work. Look at all of us talking about it. There's something to be said there. I do suspect that eventually T.REX will offer custom selections and more tube options. The industry is about to undergo some radical shifts, some of which we can't even discuss yet. It would be foolish of them to ignore some of the tech that is coming down the road. There is simply no other way to keep up and be relevant other than being open to offering this new tech as it's about to be released. I'm hinting at stuff that we can't even talk about or release at this time, but we've had our hands on some stuff and seen things behind the scenes that could change everything. And more on that as soon as we can say more. On the topic of grace, let's consider that Lucas and the T.REX team is undergoing constant evolutions and maturing, just like my company and every other company is and should be. I think that it's important to understand these changes are always happening behind the scenes. It doesn't mean that you don't hold someone accountable, but I understand the behind the scenes, day-to-day running of a fast-growing company. It's complex and strenuous. It's immensely difficult, and stuff is always changing. I'm okay with giving grace there, but I'm also making this video to give my 2 cents for whatever that's worth. Overall, I think T.REX entering the space is arguably probably a good thing. I think that rising tides will raise all ships. I think T.REX being present will weed out some of the nonsense potentially I see in the industry. I think that they will see some success selling their night vision to their followers. I do think that they will lose a lot of opportunity from their current framework, but I also understand the decision to do it the way that they're doing it. I also think that selling night vision will be far more difficult than they possibly originally thought it would. It just requires so much more customer service than other products. People want to know that they're making the right decision on this stuff. Addresses should be physically verified. Valuable packages often get lost or stolen. It just takes an immense amount of effort just to sell these items and ship them to customers. But I do hope that they see success in what they're doing. Night vision is a natural progression for their company, and they are responsible, at least in some part, to some of the normalization of night vision and the fighting gear that we see in the hands of citizens today. And I think that anybody saying otherwise is a bit ignorant. So where does that leave Arkayne at this point? Well, we still offer so many options for night vision and thermal. We are one of the leaders in offering what we call dual band systems, which is just a fancy way of saying PVS 14s married to thermal monoculars. We are constantly increasing our offerings and the different items on our website. We operate under the mindset that this gear is our human right, just like our rifles and pistols are. Supplemental gear is critical in our pursuit of defiant freedom. We believe that people should be purchasing and training with this gear, not just collecting and flexing it. We believe that by viewing this gear as mission critical to remaining free, we can expand its ownership to the point where it cannot be further regulated by our government. We think it is the responsibility of each night vision owner to do work in the culture and to make sure that more people around themselves are understanding what night vision and thermal is and how it can be used to defend liberty. We will continue to offer the ability to call us, to text us, and to speak to us directly. We will continue to offer nearly every flavor of intensifier tube that is readily available in the market. We will continue to navigate the specs with you, alongside you, so you can dial in exactly what you need so you walk away thrilled with your purchase. This is what I think is the harder road, and quite frankly, it's expensive for us just to maintain. But we believe that by offering you access to us and giving you the roadmap to selecting the perfect unit, we will ultimately see you walking away more confident in your purchase, which means you are better equipped for everything you're going to experience. We will never shy away from the false information put out about units and offerings in different tubes. Rather than regurgitating poor intel, we buy these units, we run these units ourselves, and then we speak about them and provide you content to show them honestly and openly to you. Too many companies simply repeat bad information rather than investing in learning the truth for themselves. And ultimately, that's the end goal. Even if you end up purchasing somewhere completely different than us, we hope that the content that we make helps you in some way. But I will say, if you do go somewhere else after watching our videos, just consider at the very least buying a t-shirt or something off of our website. I will never claim that Arkayne is the perfect company run in the perfect way. We don't have the perfect processes. We aren't incapable of making mistakes or bad calls. We're on this journey learning just like everybody else. We bring experience not just in shooting with nods, but with driving and navigating and shooting predators with this equipment. Skills that we can teach you about and we are passionate about so that you can become better equipped and a more capable citizen. Ultimately, that's our end goal. And I'm curious what you all think. Was T.REX entering the night vision scene a good thing? What were your thoughts as they rolled out all of this initial content onto their different pages? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you have any feedback for us about our business, just throw it at us. We would be happy to consider your input as well. And that's all I have for now on this topic. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope it paints a picture of who we are and also gives you a more level-headed approach to what I think that we all just saw go down in the industry. I think there's stuff that we can walk away with and learn from. I think there's things that possibly could have been done better, but ultimately I'm looking at everything as it went down and saying to myself, hey, these are some things that we should keep in mind for our company so that as we are moving into the next generation of night vision and thermal tech, that we can do this in a way that is productive for the community. And I think if you're in this space, you're a company in this space, or even you're just a consumer in this space, I think we should be auditing our messaging to make sure that we have an end goal in mind. Because ultimately, there's hornets' nests hanging up everywhere. We don't just want to take sticks and start whacking them just to make the bees fly all around. We ultimately want to guide people through an experience and a story of learning and understanding what this night vision and thermal tech is and what it isn't, so that we can secure these rights and this equipment for our future generations and also be better equipped and better prepared to fight for liberty whenever that time comes. So guys, if this was helpful to you, please let us know. As always, like, share, subscribe, check out our Instagram page, check out our website. All the links are down in the description. I hope that this video was helpful to you all. And as always, guys, make sure you stay well and safe, and we will see you in the darkness.